Hi, this is Eli Ocheltree of the SnoKing Beekeepers Association. It is April 16th, and we are going to tonight for our monthly meeting start by talking about the queen rearing workshop. It's our 4th annual queen rearing workshop, and we get better every year. And then we'll go into talking swarms and splits, because I think that's what's really on a lot of people's minds. But I'll start with about 14, 15 slides on the queen rearing workshop, just the quickest of explanations. As I mentioned in the chat, I still don't have the online application, but I will put it up tonight. Absolutely. I will not sleep tonight until I put it up. I will get it done. I will resist the sun and everything else, and I will get it done tonight. It will be up. So this is what I think of as the overview slide of the queen rearing workshop. And I'll go through why we do it the way we do it. I do not actually know of any other bee club that does what we do. I know there are others in the United States because we actually got some of our Excel spreadsheets and how we're doing things and the format. We got some of that from the Susquehanna beekeepers, which is over like Tennessee or Virginia, somewhere over that way. And they said, go ahead, use it. So I took them at their word. The queen rearing workshop actually runs about 2 months. Most queen rearing workshops, they charge you a lot of money. You go for one day, and at the end of it, you go home and then you try it yourself. It's a lot easier, trust me, to try this as a group, especially if you're going to put in the grafting part. Almost every beekeeper in the first year or two tries a walk-away split. Your hive's too big, it looks like it's going to swarm, and you decide that you're just going to split it in half, and the half that doesn't end up with a queen, just make sure it has some eggs that are eclosing. We no longer use the word hatch. Eggs that are changing into larvae. Make sure that both halves have that. The one that has a queen won't worry about raising a queen, but the one that doesn't have a queen will have that option of female eggs, worker eggs that can be transformed into a queen simply by diet. Constant feeding of royal jelly, being stuffed and treated like royalty. So this first slide is really a collage, I guess you'd say. But if you start at the left, you have some hive and there's a queen in it, and you'd like to raise some offspring of hers. If you wait, the hive may swarm off on you, and you will be left with her offspring, but you'll lose her. And that often reduces your honey production, and it can be stressful on your neighbors and you. And so most people try to control the swarming, which is the second part of tonight's meeting. And this first part, I'm just going to run through what we try to do in about 8 weeks of meeting, especially Saturdays. We need some people to come in during the week, but we aim for as much as we can possibly do on Saturday. And people are most fascinated on the internet with grafting. There are a lot of ways to raise queens. You can get very confused very easily. I think there's even books that say 7 ways to raise queens, which is too mind-boggling. I don't recommend that, okay? You get really confused if you pick too many methods and look at too many. So as a club, we decided we'd simplify it. We'd do it sort of the Susquehanna way with a little added change of using the NICOT cassette system as well as the Doolittle grafting. Okay, you have your hive, you have your queen, she's laying eggs. There are 2 ways that you can get her eggs into the little cups. Notice these green cups here. There's also some brown cups here. And you're going to put them into a hive that is hopelessly queenless. And the workers go, oh, we don't have any queens. And so they raise queen cells for you. Then you take those little queen cells, here's one here, you take it out of where it was raised and you stick it on a frame in what we call a mating nuke, the smallest hive you could possibly put a queen who is a virgin queen when she emerges, in so that she can go out and mate. So moving from left to right here, you got this queen. You have two ways to get her eggs into those little cups. You can sit there and do the little scoop, which is the Doolittle method. People are wonderful at this or lousy at it. If there's sort of no in between, I can get like 50%, but oh, I have to concentrate. And Melanie, who's here too, she can get it too, but it takes a lot. She does better than 50%, but a lot of concentration. And if you want to make friends with a guy named Nathan Jensen, he's absolutely perfect at it. He could just sit there and just do them bam, 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 bam for you. And get them into the cups, the little tiny larvae that you need to transfer in from this queen's eggs, the little tiny larvae that just declosed from her eggs. What is easier? And what we emphasize in ours, we do the Doolittle. You can come. We'll get you lights, magnifying glasses. We'll help you in every way we can if you want to try this method. But what we find is it's worth buying the cassette. The cassette has all the little cups. That's the same little cups that the woman above, same type of cup, that she is trying to put the little tiny larvae in. But this way, the queen is on the other side of this side that you can see. This is the back side. She puts her little tush in to each one of these cups and lays for you. If you do every single little detail of how to do this right. One of the reasons we recommend doing this as a club, it's great fun to kind of meet people and talk to people and compare notes and all that. But also, if you can't figure out how to make this work, we are now experts in it, and we can help you troubleshoot. And if something goes wrong, somebody else will figure it out. We've got brains, we've got do-it-yourselfers. When you get enough beekeepers together, you have every skill set there. This one works really well. This, you can see that these cups are different colors. We actually deliberately let the larvae get too big, but this cassette system, the queen sticks her little tush in each one of these. She's on the other side of what you're seeing, this bank of queen cups. Puts her little tush in there, lays the little egg. The workers can go in and out. She can't leave this cassette system. And right below, it's a picture of the cassette in a frame. The thing that's wonderful about that is you can look at the back, and these big white blobs are actually larvae that are too big. But we did this on purpose. It's like taking an overexposed picture on purpose. Actually, you can tell when she has laid that egg and it has just turned into the tiny little larvae. You can see it. These are translucent. Is that what you call them? Pretty much almost completely transparent. And you can see when you need to take that cup, and then instead of trying to do the scoop stuff, you take the cup and you put it on these bars. And then you flip it over, because queen cells are raised upside down, inserted into a certain type of cell, a hopelessly queenless cell, which we call a cell builder. And the worker bees there just go crazy, turning those little upside down female eggs that would have been workers, but they turn them into queens. And then when they develop the queen cells, they pull them out, draw them out, and they get capped. Then you transfer each queen cell into her own mini mating nuke, her own mini hive. So that's the quick overview of what you do. Sometimes I think it helps to start with, you've sort of seen the parts of this on the internet, and we're just going to do this kind of left to right. That's what we'll actually do. Now I have all these words to describe it. Why did we come up with this method? And why are we doing it now? All of that makes sense once you start to do it. So we do a hands-on approach. We know that this is the time at this season, in this climate, and we know that beekeepers don't have time after the 4th of July to really do this. Honest, we are doing this now, early, and I'm happy to do a second set of queens afterwards, after the 4th of July. But we time starting in a week from Saturday. Actually, we're starting the prep even this weekend, and then the following weekend, and then we're really starting the 8-week procedure. We're doing that because the beekeepers tend to take off by the 4th of July, and the bees have finished raising queens for their big push of the year. Nature wants to reproduce in spring. So we're taking advantage of all that. It all comes together when we do this annual queen rearing workshop. It keeps the cost down for everybody. And if you don't know anything about bees and want to watch us, that's fine. If you're experienced, you can help everybody else. And you can help with the most basic things like how we open up a hive and making sure everybody's suit is on correctly. And there's we have room for everybody. We have everything up to master, showing up and helping out. And that's our goal. All experience levels. Don't need to bring any specialized equipment. We'll take you from the very beginning, queen lays the egg, to proofing the queens, making sure that your queen is well mated at the end. And there's a huge safety net in this because everybody has skills. And if somebody makes a mistake, somebody else can correct it. If we fail totally on a graft for one day, we can do another graft. And we've got all the equipment out already. We know how to do it. We'll just redo that little part. Instead of like a beekeeper who's alone feels like a failure quite often. And this is very supportive, very community building, and it's fun to socialize, and you can blog about it. I really this year would like to blog more about it. So I finally have the dates. I just got this done. We're going to start this Saturday prepping, the 26th. There's a lot of prepping that goes into raising queens easily, doing it with the bees. Don't try to force the bees to do something they don't want to do. Do it with them. Raising queens also comes at the swarm season, logically, because the bees want to reproduce. And to reproduce, they have to make queens. So it's just the best time of the year. It's easier for you, easier for the beekeepers, easier in every way. I think we will finish by the June 23rd. I have a timeline. I'll show quickly just a little bit of the timeline. Everything is recorded and planned out. As I said, this is our 4th year doing this. But if we need to, if something happens and we get a week's delay, we'll just take a little longer. We'll still be done by the 4th of July, which seems to be the magic. Beekeepers can't make promises 4th of July and later. It's just, darn it, we have families and we have people have vacation expectations. I don't know why they don't want to just stay and be with their hives all summer long. But anyway, our families don't always understand. This is what a queen rearing timeline looks like, and I'll explain it on the Thursday meetings. And we're going to have little Thursday meetings before each Saturday, trying to cover what we did the Saturday before, but especially what are we going to cover the Saturday actually in the apiary. And this is a really easy thing to set up if you are interested in doing it for your club, for example. You'd like to try this with your club. And I think this could really be popular with a lot of clubs if we can present it in a format that makes it clear how to do it. Yeah, this looks like gobbledygook. You read that and it reads like gobbledygook. Trust me, it will make sense after you do it or while you're doing it. One of the reasons for doing queen rearing this way, instead of just saying, read the book, watch a video, is beekeeping is really a skill, a craft, and it just naturally calls for the master-apprentice relationship. Somebody leads and somebody says, okay, we do it your way because you're the master. And I don't mean necessarily that you have to be a master beekeeper, but it's a mentor-mentee, natural leads to that relationship. We're going to teach one way to do queens. There are lots of ways, and they're very confusing when you go out on the internet. So we are going to do this the master apprentice way, which is the master says, we're going to do it this way. And you do it that way. And then after you become journeyman and master, then you can choose to do it differently. But this one method, we're basically going to follow Grant Gillard's book, Nycot Queen Rearing. You can get it on Kindle on Amazon. I think it cost me like $4 or $5. You don't have to get the book, but if you want to make sure that you're following what I'm saying, you might want to go through the queen rearing workshop first. Some people are read people. They want to read it first. Some say, okay, let's see how it goes on this 8-week thing, and then I'll read it. Either way, we'll work with it. This workshop is different than different than most queen rearing workshops because a lot of people have said they want hands-on. And it's through the experience that they'll really get the concepts. Okay, that's fine for me. If you want to read in advance and understand concepts first, that's fine. Thursday evenings, we'll go through as much as we can. And at the end of the Thursday sessions, it'll take like half a dozen sessions to get through what we're doing on Saturdays, especially what we did the Saturday before and what we're doing the Saturday following. And then some people will have to come in midweek because not all the time points work out to every 7 days. Unfortunately, the bees don't work on a 7-day schedule. They just don't. We're going to make the decisions on this one plan for you. Okay, we're going to say that we're in charge and we're the masters and you're the apprentice, but we're going to keep it simple. Okay, making the decisions for you actually really, really helps get you through the process 1 year. And as many explanations as you want. We'll do a really short meeting on Thursdays. Honest, I can shut up and not talk forever. Honest, I can do it. And we'll make it short and to the point. People want to stay later and talk? Great. We'll try to record or put it in an email each Thursday afterwards for the people who can't make a Thursday meeting. Then after we get started on those Thursday meetings and you want to say, okay, why didn't you do it this other way? That'll be great. But at the beginning, we're just going to go ahead and start and do it one way. And I will need from you the application filled out, which I haven't put on. It's going on tonight. Absolutely tonight. I will put it on SnoKingBeekeepers.org. And we need some help with the money. We do. It does cost money. Oddly enough, the biggest expense is actually sugar because you have to feed these nukes. They don't have enough foragers. And when we pull the hives apart, it will make sense later on. Actually, sugar is our biggest single expense. And also to build the hives up for the fall. And we also need the dues if you haven't paid those. You don't have to have any minimal experience. That sounds totally crazy, but it works. And I've got some people on here who watched us do it, and it's going to run even more smoothly this year. There's always somebody a little bit more experienced. And if you did it last year, you may become the person who is, okay, you're here at this hive, and you are explaining how to kill all rogue queen cells that shouldn't be there. And it makes sense after somebody explains it, or you did it the year before. We do have to have a liability waiver. We've never had a liability waiver for the apiary. And somebody pointed it out to me, so I got one, and I think it looks really dumb, but it looks nice and legalistic. So I'll attach it to the application, and you can just agree there, or we can sign it at the apiary. We used Sign Up Genius, I think, last year, and let's try it again. You can come any Saturday you want. Nobody can make it for 8 in a row. If you could, you would learn a lot. I really think so. It would really be good, but most people can't. Memorial Day weekend falls in there, and there's Mother's Day on Sunday after one of the sessions. So there's reasons why you're not going to make it for some of those. And we know that. Make it for as many as you can. You decide how much you benefit. If you can come on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there are certain times we need people to do that. When you come into the apiary, I need you to log in and out. You can claim a queen for every 5 hours that you help in the apiary. So the money is for the food and the cost of running the workshop. You have to earn your queens. Try to get to the Thursday meetings, and you wear your own bee jacket, but don't bring tools and gloves. It's a hygiene thing. We just can't take a chance that anything goes in or out of the apiary. Anytime you visit somebody's apiary, you really should use their tools and disposable gloves. And that's the best. The exception is you have a really bad bee sting reaction and you really do need to wear the thick, heavy gloves. If we can't double glove you with fairly heavyweight food safety latex gloves, not latex, nitrile gloves, then we can't. And okay, then you have to use the gloves. And sometimes you get asked to do really weird things. If the apiary manager says, we are going to turn this hive 180 degrees around, we do it. And the apiary manager maybe me or whoever's the most senior person there, will try to explain it. And if it doesn't make sense, just do it and we'll make it make sense later. Okay? Everybody should raise queens. People talk about sustainability and environmental. Does anybody have any questions? I'm kind of going on really fast. And I know there's not a lot of pictures. You'll have to actually unmute yourself and interrupt me if you need to, okay? Do that if you need to. But doing this as a club, we avoid a lot of the roadblocks to people raising their own queens. Why should people at least know how to raise their own queens, even if they choose not to do it? Well, you can ask the right questions when you buy one, if nothing else. But also for sustainability, people talk about it, it's a buzzword. If we really want to not be dependent on constantly getting bees shipped in from outside Western Washington area, bringing with them new strains of varroa, new strains of viruses, and who knows, maybe EFB or AFB some year. I mean, it could happen anytime. We could get an outbreak of something like that. Well, if we want to avoid all that shipping bees in, the best way to avoid it is to have strong, robust, especially young queens going into each winter. And Michael Duncan's on here, I think probably still. And on his honey production talk, that was one of the most important things, is that he requeens every hive every year. And that is something that a lot of people have said works, or every other year. That can work for a lot of people too. There's all these roadblocks, though, to doing what seems logical. Growing your own queens, why not? Well, there's the experimentation. If you're trying to find the right method, it kind of costs. And it takes time and effort, and you get frustrated if you don't find a method. So we show you one method, and then you can change it, adapt it, totally abandon it. But we'll give you one. And we think we're saving you a lot of trial and error. And honestly, every year I learn new things. We get people who do the heavy lifting, and we get people who are really good at record keeping and come up with a great way to keep track of something. If you're a little obsessive compulsive disorder, that's okay. We need record keepers. We need people who are tracking what's going on. And sometimes people just have really good ideas and they tell me things and we incorporate it the next year. We're also a safety net for each other. It takes 8 weeks to really make a queen. The bees do it. Yeah, we let them do it in our apiaries. But if you want to be sure that you've got queens, and if you want more than just one or two, there's a lot of critical time points if you're going to try to do this grafting with the Scoop Doolittle or with the cassette Nicot system. Either one has time points to it. You miss those time points, it's like you're at one of those games where, oops, go back to the starting point, Monopoly or whatever, and you have to go all the way back to the beginning. Return to start. You don't want to end up doing that. And when we work together, it gives us that safety net where we're each doing things and we can catch it. Losses. If you make just a few queens, and you try to do, say, grafting or something for a few queens, you think, okay, I'll do this for 6 queens. There's an attrition at almost every step of queen rearing. You lose, if you start with like 20 queens, you might end up with 5. Seriously, that's a normal attrition rate. They say it's like 25% at each step, and you have several steps. So if we're doing a lot of queens, no problem. We'll all go home with queens if we start with enough. And that's kind of hard to do by yourself. And we will catch each other's mistakes, maybe even before we make them. So this is the picture I started with, and I hope it's starting to make sense. I'm not showing you all the steps, but this idea of you start over here, got a queen, you want her eggs, you can pick them up off one of her brood frames and scoop them and do all this elaborate work, and I kind of can do it. Melanie does it better. Nathan does it the best. But or we can get the queen to lay the egg in the cup. And that is my highly preferred method. This one makes my life a lot easier. And then either way, you have the eggs in the cups, got it upside down, you turn it so that the cup is upside down, and you put it in the hopelessly queenless hive, and those young worker bees go to town. They have to have queens. They just can't do enough for those princesses, turning them into queens. Then when you've got all this filled out with queen cells, each queen cell goes into her own nuke, her own, the smallest hive you can come up with that she can have, fly from the mate, fly back to lay her eggs and settle down and become the queen of your dreams. I mentioned roadblocks. When you go out on the internet, I don't know how many of you really tried to look at this. Anybody who's really tried to look at queen rearing, people say, oh, you got to go try Larry Corner, and you got to read the original Doolittle book, and you got to do the Hopkins and the Alley. I'll be happy to go through those with you. A lot of them are based on wax foundation. The idea that you can cut the queen cells off the frame that they're on. Now, if like me, you have tried to scrape off a queen cell and get it off all in one piece, oh, come on, I know I can just do it. If I'm just real careful, I can get it off that plastic foundation. Nope. If you leave any kind of an imperfection, bees are funny. It's like when you are working on the hive and you knock a drone pupae, one of the drone pupa loose, and the bees will not repair the cell and take care of it. It isn't what they do. They just say, oh, spoiled, throw it out. And they will do that with queen cells. So scraping a queen cell off a plastic foundation, if you succeed, so much the better for you. But no, I haven't. Most beekeepers can't do that, scooping the little larvae into the cup on the first try. Overwhelmingly, people can't do it. It looks super easy. And come try it. We've got the tools, we've got the lights. Hey, go ahead and try it. If you can do it, you don't have to get the cassette method. Overall, for clubs and for most people, the cassette method works better and isn't that much more expensive. Then other roadblocks that we can eliminate for you, when you do take your queens home, you take them, each queen, on a frame of her own brood. That's kind of important because you're in the middle of a flow, and maybe for some people even going past the flow, depending on when we finish and when they pick up their queen. And that is the best, easiest introduction, is a queen is on a frame of her own brood, and you put her in to where you're going to put her. There's a couple other things you can do to help a queen be accepted, but that's one of the biggest, and it just makes everybody's life easier. We can mark the queens here. You will get a marked queen because we have the little marking cages and the pens, and we'll do it. We will use a bigger type of mating nuke than a lot of people can get, because they don't have enough brood. And we're making sure of that this year, that we have lots of brood. A 4-frame nuke for the queen to go into after she's coming out of her cell. She's going to stay there while she mates and lays her first eggs, so that you can see her brood pattern and finish proofing her and knowing that she's a well-mated, well-laying queen. It's easier to do that in our climate if you have at least 2 frames of brood per queen's nuke. That is actually a roadblock for a lot of people because you don't have that much brood to spare in the spring. And we have some of the specialty equipment that people talk about. You can look at it here and try it here. We are working with the bees, so we're going with the flow. When the flow is on, that's when bees are very happy. They raise the fattest, happiest queen larvae, and you get the fattest, happiest, best queens. Nutrition is extremely important. A number of researchers agree on that. More important than genetics. We have simplified this process, and we're not going to worry about genetics, and we're going to call that a side issue along with others, and then we'll talk about them in the Thursday meetings. So if that's something you really want to address, we can address it. But we are going to focus this, and we're going to KISS. We're going to keep it simple, students. And I put the quotes because I knew somebody probably isn't going to believe this. The genetics are far less important than having good nutrition for the queens and actually for the nurse bees that raise them, making sure everybody is fat, happy, and well fed. And Sue Kobe, most people know her. Morris Ostrovsky is quoted quite a bit in the WASBA manual. And these are what they're saying. There's some long quotes, and I'll send them out if people are interested, especially when we have little Thursday evening meetings. As many as you can make. It's like the Saturday meetings. It's as many as you can make. What you can make, you can make, and you will benefit more. This we can record. Like right now, I'm recording this part. But if you don't have good nutrition, well reared is what they say. No matter how good their genetics, they can't perform. And inferior genetics, as people say, and personally, I think that's very snotty to say, well, this queen is better than this one. If they're raised right, they are right. They are the best. All of this is going to require the reason for the Thursday evening meetings is on the fly. I'll be happy to explain. Everybody will try to explain as much as we can what we're doing. But one thing we have to do is track these queens, track where the brood came from, track where the queen goes, track how well she's proofing. We're going to do it with the 3x5 cards inside of plastic pockets and a number of logs. And that again is a little bit easier to explain quickly at a Thursday meeting than to try to explain it in the apiary. But if you need it explained in the apiary, hopefully somebody will already know how to do it and you can just follow along. It will end up looking like this. And I admit this looks chaotic. Not all of our equipment matches. On the other hand, you will get to see a double mating nuke, 2 4 frames in a 10. I mean, a lot of specialty equipment. We have queen castles. We have individualized 4 and 5 frame nukes. We have long hives in the back that have 3 divisions, and you can put extra queens in there. And you can also use the top of a thriving hive, queen right. If you do it correctly, you can actually put a queen cell at the top with her own separate entrance with queen excluders, making sure that those 2 queens, the original one at the bottom and that queen cell when it emerges at the top, never meet. That's actually one of the things you can do. People could even take queen cells home and do that. We've got a lot of ways to make this work. We've worked it out. I think we're just about at the point of really writing it up into a good plan. It's that somebody could really understand. We're right, I think, on the edge of that this year. And that's really a club goal, is let's make this so anyone could do it. It does require a commitment. And a commitment to an apiary is something that a lot of clubs don't do. They cost money, they take a lot of time and energy. But the feedback last year from the people who participated in this was wonderful. They really felt like they got to know each other and they learned a lot and they had a lot of fun. And Western Washington is different. I've got a lot of writing here. I'm sorry. They say never make slides like this. And again, I'll make sure this gets emailed out to people who are coming to the Thursday meetings. We have a cool maritime climate. This spring is looking like it might get warm early. Oh, please, please stay 60 degrees every day. I'm hoping, and stop freezing. I'm still getting a touch of frost last week, and we're just starting to stay above 32 this week. And that is a big boost to your bees. I know most people, I think, in the lowlands, I know I keep complaining and whining that I'm at 476 feet with a breeze, but it does make a difference. So a lot of you are worrying about swarm control, and I'm still trying to get them to brood up because it's cold here. I will explain about reducing real estate, the space that it takes. If you look at that previous picture and you're trying to raise queens, yeah, you probably wouldn't get this big, but it would look bad to your neighbors, maybe even significant others and household members who would freak out when they saw this many boxes of bees. So it is actually a good thing to do this as a club on a club apiary site. and you don't have to be buying all this equipment. If you do decide on a cassette that's not that expensive, even the top of the line cassette, I think is like with the little pieces and everything, is $100, which with beekeeping, that's nothing if it's reusable. Then we'll also cover, if a queen doesn't return from her mating flight and we have to remerge, we'll cover that. All these nukes and the separating the queens, those are actually methods that you could use to overwinter extra queens. Can you imagine having an extra queen in the spring when you need her? When some queen didn't make it through the winter and you've got a hive that is queenless? I had to merge two small ones together because one was queenless. And that's a hard, and the bees often will accept that, but I was lucky that I had already 7 hives, so okay, didn't knock me down too much. But a lot of people wouldn't have an extra queen, wouldn't be able to spare one. And I really think that to be sustainable, to protect our bee industry in Western Washington, we really need independence from out-of-state queen suppliers. I really do believe that. Okay, that's all I really have on that. But before I take a breath here, I did want to throw one more thing at you. I have been promising that I would show people a financial summary. We're not a big club. We don't take a lot in, but pretty much it all goes out. And I will put this in like the next newsletter, okay? Just where we are. Some things changed in 2024. The purple thing over here, this purple part is the 24%, is usually more like 35% or so, but we bought fewer manuals this last year. Fewer people are taking classes that are manual classes. That's okay. That's fine, but it's a change. It's happening. We do a lot of office costs. The orange is like office. Oh, 30. That is actually this year for the first time bigger than the manuals that we send to. We have to send money to WASBA for the manuals. Some people don't realize that. We pay for your manuals and certificates, and we also pay dues for each of you, just $1 a person. It's not a lot, but we keep track of all that, and we pay other fees and this and that. And we have a little bit of liability insurance. I just thought I'd put something up that says we are being responsible. And Karen helped me with this, so she can vouch. She worked really hard with getting all the receipts organized for 2024. And I'm just now getting it in a format that people could kind of look at. It is just kind of a good idea to, as they say, to be transparent and let people know what you're doing. And I thought I owe that to people who've been contributing and giving so much to us. Sometimes I'm amazed that it's almost $800 for postage, but that's really not that bad. Various fees and insurance, yeah, 800. Technology, there's some monthly subscriptions for that to have multiple Zoom users. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Yeah.
Eli, did you account for some of the donations, maybe assets? What you have assets? Because I think there were some donations and stuff. I don't know if you can value those or not, but
See, I don't know how to value those. I don't know any way to value those. They're usually used. If they're cash, they're in here.
right, I understand that. But I mean,
Yeah.
you could say they're $5 a deep or something,
I,
just something to kind of acknowledge that they're receiving. If they're junk, then just put them as junk. But I think that would recognize that there are some donations that are coming in that form.
Yeah, there are, and
Thank
I can
you.
write a thank you letter. And what I do is I'm not considered, I read all the stuff on the nonprofit donations and stuff, and I can't say something is worth something. But what I do is if it's really new, I write a polite letter and I say, this would be the new cost, and I think that this is worth 75%. A lot of times it's only worth like 50%, I think, on the market. And I let them, and I say, you'd have to take this to your accountant. But the thank you is the nice part. Writing the thank you letter is what's really important because it is wonderful of people to remember us. Uh, most of what you see at the apiary is, you know, my land, my shed, and almost all of it's my equipment. the apiary.
I understand that. I'm
Yeah,
just, all I'm doing, I'm not
but
questioning. All I'm saying is that if you can find an equivalent value out on Marketplace or something like that, then that is something that accountants would recognize as an asset value. And my sister's is a PA, stuff like that.
actually,
So
it's called value in kind or donations in kind. And if you can get how you do it, no one cares. This is such a small
that's
amount
fine.
of money. Nobody cares. But yeah, it is significant. It makes a difference. It really does. Uh, Smokers, when people give us a smoker, that's what, $40 for a smoker? Every time somebody gives us something, people who are going out of beekeeping actually give us the best stuff. They really do, and we really appreciate it. I can't even thank those people enough, even when I write them a nice little letter or something. Um, yeah, it is big, but it's called donation in kind, and it's a little tricky, and I don't know how to do it, and I sure hope nobody ever expects me to do it because we can't afford an accountant. It's like a lawyer or anything. But nobody really cares as long as you make less than a certain amount, and 16,000 is well under what most people are interested in. But I'm amazed that that's a lot of people donating an awful lot when you realize it. There's about $1,000 in there of speaking fees that engagements that I had that I did speaking. Hey, if sign me up for speaking engagements, okay? Anybody? The 100, 200, the top one was the 600. That was Pat Waymeyer went with me on that. So anyway, that was the main thing I wanted to do on that. I've got lots of other slides, but I think I should stop there for a little while and let people, who's got something in chat? Oh, swarm cells, one capped. Okay. Okay. Hope the split works. Hope you're in time. Hey, Paula, do you have any theories like if you can get the old queen into the new equipment? If you can get her to feel like she swarmed, that it's going to work better. I always wonder psychologically. Yeah, psychologically, I just think it would work better. Oh, and was there anything else? That was nice what Ty said. I appreciated that, but I don't know how to implement it. Actually, if anybody does want to give advice on legalistics or accounting in case it ever comes up, I don't know who to even ask, to be truthful. So yeah, the next thing was talking about swarms and splits. Any questions though on the queen rearing workshop? I'm still working on it, obviously. Help would be appreciated this Saturday and the next Saturday, but we're still prepping. And then we're really going to get into it. That should be whichever day of May it is. 16th, 23rd. Yeah, it must be the 1st of May. I'm not looking at a calendar right now. Then part of it is I have to update all the calendars we used in other years. So I hope people make it, even if you find that you can only come a couple of, if you can come even a couple of Saturdays, quite often we have somebody who, if we have enough people there, who can explain where we are and what we're doing. And if you can follow the emails from the Thursday evening and hopefully little short recordings, then you'll be able to follow that. Let's see, should I record conversation or should I probably stop there to keep it short? Any opinions on that? Okay, I'll just pause and then we can always start again. How's that if we